Hey guys, Joe Pye here, Advanced Innovations, Austin, Texas. Welcome back to the shop. Let's talk about this little piece today. This is a handle. It's a pull handle. It is not a full semicircular handle. There is a straight section out here on the end. So the center line of this arc is somewhere in this vicinity right here. That immediately rules out this being done from a tube, unless of course the wall of the tube was considerably larger, but you're not going to be able to turn this part. So rule out the lathe, guys. Not going to happen. Very symmetrical features, both sides. Little pocket, both sides, rounds, both sides, chamfers all the way around. That means trouble. That means that somewhere along the line in the production of this part, it's going to have to be flipped over and something's going to get in the way of something. Easy to do the first side. Do it from a blank. Leave a little slab of material down here that I like to call grip stock. Right? That's fine. You can do the inside profile, the outside profile, the rounds on these corners with a corner edge cutter, corner rounder. You can notch that out. You can put the chamfer all the way around. Now this is a CNC part. When you flip it over, you're now looking at the grip stock that you had. You can take your cutter and you can profile this part, and that grip stock can come off in one piece if you wanted to. So how are you holding the part? Probably holding it in soft jaws. One jaw has a concave radius milled into it. The other one has a convex feature milled into it. And when they come together, they squeeze really nice. If you were to do this with pins and squeeze it, you risk the chance of distorting this part either in or out. And what's the big deal on that? Well, no big deal, but when you go to put the chamfer on, the chamfer is not going to match the contour that you previously machined on. There will be an inconsistency in that chamfer all the way around. And I'm the kind of guy that would pick up on that and say, what did you do? There's a couple of different ways you can do this, a couple of different ways you can approach it. And believe it or not, there's an awful lot of material that gets thrown away on a part like this, because this entire inside and this outside edge, if you're working from a rectangular blank, well, what happens to it? If you're making a bunch of these, you might want to work from a bar and start nesting them inside of each other and reduce the amount of waste or the island that gets thrown away. Or you can use that material to your advantage, which is the way I'm going to approach this part. I'm going to superficially profile this part on one side, put the chamfers on, put the steps on, put the rounds on, and then I'm going to put in tooling holes. I'm going to put in through holes, and I'm going to put in a set of dowel pin holes so that I can lift this thing out of the vise. First operation's in a vise on parallels, and then it goes onto a fixture plate locating on those pins. Screw holes, profile the whole thing. Well, at one point in this process, this part is going to be loose. It is going to come loose from the master block that you initially started machining it from. So although I start off with 4 screws in this part to hold it down, when I machine the center out of the second side, I'm going to have to take them screws out and put clamps down. But then those clamps get in the way of putting this chamfer on. There you go. Order of operations. Look ahead. Don't crash your tools into anything. And using the pin idea comes in pretty handy. You might have to fiddle around a little bit with clamps on the parts. I'm going to use 2 clamps on this part, one on the inside and one on the out. I'll say I'm going to. I did. I have one more to make. I have a half a dozen of these I needed to make. And it was just worth my while to make a quick plate and change my process a little bit and do it the way I'm doing it. There's a reason for everything. It's just a whole lot easier than having to worry about crashing into a clamp or how am I going to hold it or something's not going to come out beautiful. Now on the surface finish on the outside, I have another part that I will show you that's got all these little chicken pox marks in it. And that was the first piece that I did. And this piece is nearly flawless on the outside and the inside. The little chicken pox marks can be indicative of 2 different things. It can either be the difference between a climb cut and a conventional cut, or it can be a climb cut that's pulling chips into the cutter and double cutting that particular chip and then rebounding into the part after that cut. So you'll see a bunch of inconsistent, why is it doing that marks in your part It's probably because you are double cutting chips that are in the channel or the canal that's not being flushed out by the coolant. Now let's take a walk out to the CNC, look at the fixture, and I will fast forward through the process just to show you how it's done. We'll go from there. Let's do it. A little closer look at the fixture plate. We got 4 tapped holes. The screws will initially hold the material down for the second op directly, and in the second half of the second op, the inner 2 screws will be for clamps. There's a tooling hole dead center in the middle, so I can find this 0 point of this fixture in the next time I use it, and 2 locating holes for the first operation blank. This is the first op on that particular part. It's made out of 3/4 by 4 60/61. It's about 7 inches long. Bolt holes, location holes. As you can see, the first stop is just very superficially put in there. Chamfers are done all the way around. Rounds are on, because those are features that you are not going to be able to access on the flip side. Now, a minute ago, you heard me talking about little chicken marks. Let's see if we can get them to show up. There they are. See all those little uglies in there? All those little superficial bounce points? That's exactly what that was. This cutter was sucking chips back into the cutter, because this is a climb cut, and it should be like that. I say there's a night and day difference between the finish on these parts. This one I put a second cutter in and went with a finish pass. This one was just straight at it. Sometimes haste makes waste. This is a good part. It is usable, and I will use it. But it's going to take a little TLC to get it up to the quality of this one. That's for sure. Once the part gets flipped over, I can locate the underside from the dowel holes. That's going to work out really well. And I will go from hold down screws in these 4 locations to hold down screws and clamps. And the hold down screws on the outside will really serve no purpose other than keeping these waste chunks from helicoptering into the cutter. That would not be pretty. All right, let's fast forward this thing, load it up, turn this into this, make it happen. The fixture plate was made with the exact same code that the first op handle blank was made with. I just edited out some. First operation here is the 5/16 diameter 2-flute carbide end mill. This is running about 5,000 RPM, and I only have to go deep enough to engage the previous slot from the other side. The tool register has this tool set at a larger diameter, so it's actually a roughing pass right now. It is staying away from the final inner arc profile, which is what this is doing. Tool change coming around. This is the finished size cutter, cleaning up the inside surface, taking about 10 thousandths off. Single pass and away you go. This is going to form the small semicircular shelf that was present on the sample blank I showed you. Now, if I was making a bunch of these, I would simplify this code, but I programmed this part right at the controller, and it was just a whole lot easier to put a round pocket right on location and let the machine do the work. I did have to go back inside and figure out the tangent points for the chamfer tool that ran around. The sample that I previously had as my first piece did not have that, and I added it after the fact later in the process. This particular tool is the 1/4 inch corner round. It's a 2-flute carbide tool, about 5/8 of an inch in diameter. And it's putting in the 2 round edges on the front half of the part. You can see them right there as I'm blowing off. This is the chamfer tool. Inner chamfer, you'll see it make a little jogger right there, and back around from the other side, and that chamfer is complete. Now this is the point in the process where if you were to continue with this process and cut the outer profile, this part would release and probably fly across the shop. So with the blank still secure from the outside 2 screws, I'm going to remove the inner blank, clean everything up, place the inner 2 clamps. I always tap on the heel of the clamp while I'm holding the toe of the clamp or the nose of the clamp, just to make sure it doesn't jump around. I don't want it to bias this heel side and not the toe side. It would have a tendency to push the part away. Coolant flying everywhere here, guys, so forgive the foggy nature of this and the occasional wiping of the lens. And here we go with the outside. It's considerably easier than the inside. See, the cutter is kind of tight passing between those screws and the faces of the clamp. It's great to have digital animation where you can see what's going to happen. This is simply a loop in the code. I tell the program to do it 3 times. So it's real easy to make multiple passes with minimal code. And you can see those little chips that are flying back into the canal where this tool is cutting. You can hear them crunching and cutting as this cutter comes around. And that's what causes those little pock marks in a finished surface, even if it is a climb cut. And once again, all I had to do was meet the depth of the cut that was made from the other side. This is the finished pass. And the difference in the chips is considerable. On a finished pass full cut like this, the chips will be long. On the roughing pass, they'll be short and stocky. So you can look at it and remember what tool you just placed in there. Chamfer tool comes in to finish up the part. And the only thing left at this point is to throw some air pressure in there and clean it up and see what we got. And that is my dog in the background knocking on the door. All right, let's blow this thing off. And if you're making a bunch of these, face the arc towards the rear of the machine, because when you blow this off, the air goes right around that canal and comes right back at you. Well, coming out of the CNC, it needs to have some flats put on the end and some pivot holes put in the end. This is how I approach that. These pieces were originally set up on a surface plate inverted, so I know that the top surfaces are all the same. And then they were pressed up against the square and clamped. I had a machine vise, or actually my little grinding vise, squeezing them all together when I put the clamps on so nothing would move. The flats are on, and unfortunately there's going to be no easy, quick way to gang these up and drill these after the fact. So as soon as I blow this off, I'll figure out how to stand them up and put the reamed holes in for the pivots. Awful lot of work for a simple looking part, right? In the absence of very tall jaws, this is the setup I elected to use. You can see 3 that came off the CNC and the very first part without the corner rounds. I put them on after the fact. If you do something like this, make sure the part doesn't flex and ruin the alignment of the feature. Guys, I want to close out this video with a sincere thank you to everyone that has donated to the relocation fund, sent me text messages, emails, phone calls. The support has been just the best Christmas gift I could possibly hope for. And it is a couple days before Christmas as I shoot this video. So I would like to wish you a Merry Christmas, or best of whatever holiday you celebrate. And I hope that it is memorable and it lasts as long as you want it to. Anyway, wherever you are in the world, I hope you're well and happy and safe this holiday season. As always, all the above. So I am Joe Pye at Advanced Innovations in Austin, Texas. I'm out. A little bonus material here for you guys. Taking a look at how everything is winding down here. Assembly tables are being sold off. The inventory rack is hollowed out. Everything is in storage. Many of the benches have been sold. The stock rack is being cleared. This side of the shop, we're staging boxes for moving. More benches gone. I'm going to turn this whole facility into a forklift move type situation. So you come in with the forklift, lift it, and a big hole in the floor, and we are done. Still have to break down the welding area. I'm going to sell that welding enclosure, probably $100. It's three-sided, spotless. It's a really nice one. I'm going to put that, it's probably going to be on the website or inquire directly. So there it is. That's genuinely sad watching this place come apart.